I weigh less than I did then, I just can't help but look at myself and
This is such an important under-talked about subject. I've realized that this happens to people when they gain weight as well. Loads of people have described this when they gain weight, and lots of people describe it when they lose weight, even accidentally. So it doesn't have to be a mental health related issue. It doesn't have to be related to obsessiveness or body image concerns. It happens to people who really don't even care what they look like. It happens to people who are very elderly and have long since, not like everybody does, but long since, in their case, just not really bothered anymore. They also will not notice a dramatic weight loss. Like in the mirror, they're like, I think I look the same. It happens to people who lose weight because they lose access to food. They also look in the mirror and they can't see it, even though they're like, it's weird, my clothes don't fit, but I look exactly the same. It's so common that it really shouldn't be seen as automatically a mental health issue. It would appear to me that it's something about the way the brain processes visual images of itself, and possibly all remembered images that it thinks it knows. It seems like it's being very lazy, the brain, and sort of overlaying a memory instead of bothering to do the difficult task of actually visually processing something to understand its dimensions, which is actually quite an involved task for the brain. It's as if it sort of takes the overall shape of you, and instead of really giving you an idea of like, okay, now I've seen this 2D image coming at me, but I've got to understand its actual 3D dimensions. I've got to make some kind of calculations and estimates to give the person a concept of the, because you can't see all of me, you can't see the back of me. You've got to make a judgment about like, where does my head end at the back and stuff. Like, it's actually quite a complex process for the brain to look at something and judge how big it is. Alice in Wonderland syndrome is a really good example of that, where you look at something and for some reason you can't tell if it's really big or really small, or bigger than you or smaller than you. Look it up, there's a really interesting phenomenon. And I think it's related to that sort of thing. It's something about the way the brain works. It might even explain why women in surveys, regardless of culture, generally are less accurate at determining what their actual size is than men, because there are visual spatial differences between the brains of men and women. So, for example, women can see a wider field of vision than men, so in that way we have an advantage. And at the same time, for example, visual spatial like map reading is something that in general, it's not everybody, but there is a correlation where men are better at map reading, at that particular visual spatial task than women are. So there are visual spatial differences. So it would, to me, point to the idea that when you can't see that you've gained weight, which is so common as well, and you can't see that you've lost it, and this happens to both men and women, and people who do care what they look like, people who don't. It doesn't have to be related to body image concerns. I just think it probably makes them worse and makes them more risky. So I think it's really important to just understand that, oh, my brain might just have not caught up to what I look like. That's really common. Other times the brain does catch up. And so you mentioned that another time you did see that you'd lost weight, and this time you don't. Same's happened to me, because when I gained weight in 2023, I looked in the mirror. I knew I'd gained weight objectively, but I looked in the mirror and thought, it's weird, I look exactly the same, I can't see it. It was very bizarre. And when I lost too much weight accidentally once because of fasting for brain health and ADHD reasons, and not weighing myself because I wasn't trying to lose weight, I didn't even realize I'd lost weight. I noticed my clothes didn't fit, but I thought, okay, I must have lost a little bit then because my clothes don't fit. I was shocked when I looked at photos of myself from before. I was shocked at what I looked like, because I'd looked in the mirror every day and never saw that. I never saw those bones. It was bizarre. And people had called me the skinny one between me and this other girl I worked with, and I was so confused by it. I was like, how can they be calling me the skinny one? She's obviously thinner than I am, because when we met, she was, and I didn't see the change in myself. And it was nothing to do with body image concern, because I wasn't even trying to lose weight, wasn't that interested in like my body size. I was like satisfied with it and not that bothered either way. I didn't really think about it much. And the same happened when I gained it. But when I lost it this last time, I have been able to see it. For whatever reason, maybe it's just because was more conscious of it. It might be because my brain is overall healthier, because I've replaced ultra processed food with traditional food. I don't know. It might be hormone differences. My hormones are different because I have to be on a certain pill now for health reasons. So it could be that my hormones have been altered in a way that affects the way my visual spatial cortex works. I don't know, but I just recommend that people really bear that in mind in order to help prevent yourself from, worrying that you haven't lost as much weight or you don't look different. You might actually look different, and try different techniques to, like, maybe take your pictures of yourself from the back, for example, to help your brain understand what, to help your brain actually break free of that pattern of just remembering what you looked like and overlaying it like an Instagram filter, which I think is what happens when this is happening.